Welcome to the Rankin Silence Review Show. It's the third week of December, and we have two Rankin Bass Christmas specials left to review. Now, last week we reviewed the 1969 Rankin Bass Christmas special, Frosty the Snowman. This week we'll be reviewing the 1970 Rankin Bass Christmas special, Santa Claus is Comin' to Town, starring Fred Astaire as Special Delivery S.D. Kluger, Mickey Rooney as Kris Kringle and Santa Claus, Keenan Wynn as the Winter Warlock, Robbie Lester as Miss Jessica and Mrs. Claus, Paul Frees as Burgermeister Meisterburger, Grimsley, Topper, the Animals and Guards, the Doctor, the newsreel announcer, the Kringle brothers, the Mills townspeople, the businessman, the Scrooge-related man, and several others. Joan Gardner as Tanta Kringle, the grouchy store lady, the female townspeople, and several others, and Dinah Lynn, Greg Thomas, Gary White, and Andrea Cicino as the children, with Greg Thomas also voicing a young Kris Kringle. This is one of my favorite Rankin Bass Christmas specials, and one of my favorite Christmas specials in general. It has an outstanding soundtrack, but I won't be touching on the songs in this review. If anyone out there is interested in a thorough song-by-song review of the soundtrack, you can find that on my other channel through the link below. So sit back and relax as we dive into our review of the 1970 Rankin Bass Christmas special, Santa Claus is Comin' to Town. We open with the legendary Fred Astaire as Special Delivery Man S.D. Kluger, who will serve as our narrator throughout this film. He begins by telling us the story of Santa Claus from the very beginning. We see a small province by the name of Sombertown, which is ruled by a dictator named Burgermeister Meisterburger. One of his guards, by the name of Grimsley, brings him a bundled up blanket with something inside, informing him that it contains a newborn baby, which was left at the doorstep, along with a note asking for the child to be taken care of. It was simply signed Claus. Meisterburger balks at this request, demanding that Grimsley get rid of the child and take him to an orphanage. As he attempts to do so, the sleigh carrying the baby separates in the snowstorm, and the animals gather to get him to safety before he's discovered by the menacing Winter Warlock. They take the sleigh to a nearby town over the hill known as Rainbow River Valley, and leave the baby at the doorstep of a family by the name of Kringle, where it's discovered by toy maker Dingle Kringle. He informs his brothers, Wingle, Bingle, Tingle, and Zingle Kringle, and they take it to who I assume is the elder aunt or grandmother, who goes by the name of Tanta Kringle, and she declares that they will raise the baby themselves. Some time passes, and the young child, who now goes by the name of Kris Kringle, inquires about his family's nature of their work as toy makers. Tanta Kringle tells him that their family is descended from the very first Kringle, who was the very first ever toy maker to the king. However, as time had passed, and so did the kings who sat on the throne, toys became less of an important part of society and fell by the wayside as people faced hard times, hence the current name of the town, Sombertown. The Kringles agreed to teach Kris everything they know about building toys, and the animals like the squirrels and the reindeers taught him how to climb up high and jump, and the seals taught him his infamous laugh of ho ho ho. He then promises Tanta and the rest of his family that when he gets older, he will deliver the toys to the children in the nearby towns. A few more years pass, and a now adult Kris intends to keep his promise as he prepares to deliver the toys from Rainbow River Valley to the nearby Sombertown. The Kringles gift him with his famous red overcoat as he says his goodbyes and sets off on his journey. Along the way, he meets a penguin buried in the snow and names him Topper, and takes him along as a traveling companion. Not too long after, the two of them cross paths with the evil Winter Warlock and just barely manage to escape his clutches. Once they're safe, Kris is relieved to see that they're just outside of Sombertown. We then cut to Meisterburger as he emerges from his castle to address the townspeople, But before he's able to do so, he slips on a toy duck and gets knocked out. When he awakes in his bed having his temperature taken by a doctor, he turns to Grimsley and asks what made him slip, as Grimsley shows him the toy duck. This enrages Meisterburger to the point that he outlaws all toys in every shape and form, and sends Grimsley and his men to repossess all of the toys from the town's residents, threatening them with arrest if they're caught with even a single toy. We then cut to Chris arriving in town, as he starts giving out toys to the children. He's then confronted by their school teacher, Miss Jessica, who informs him of the ban on toys, which is reiterated by the children. Chris brushes this off as ridiculous and gets Jessica to agree with him after gifting her a China doll that she always wanted as a child. A few moments later, Meisterburger appears with Grimsley and the guards and takes notice of the children playing with the toys. He orders the guards to arrest the children, but Chris interferes by taking the blame and gives Meisterburger a toy yo-yo, which distracts him long enough for Chris and Topper to get away. As they escape from Somber Town and back into the mountains, they're confronted by the Winter Warlock, who traps them. When Chris extends a branch of kindness by offering the Warlock a gift, this softens his demeanor, and Chris encourages him by showing him that anyone can change if they just commit to taking the small steps towards the process. The Warlock offers to assist Chris with his magic, allowing him to see what's going on in the outside world through his magic snow globe. He finds out that Jessica is nearby searching for him, and he goes to meet up with her. She gives him letters from the schoolchildren asking for more toys, so they arrange a process where she will give the letters to the animals, and Chris would sneak into the homes and deliver the gifts while everyone was sleeping. When Meisterburger finds out about this, he forces everyone to lock up their doors and windows tightly at night. To counter this, Chris begins entering the homes through the chimneys. Infuriated by this, Burgermeister accompanies his men to search every home to make sure that no one is in possession of any toys. Then, to counter that, Chris tells Jessica to have the children hang out their stockings so he can drop the gifts in there. This being the final straw, Meisterburger goes to the extreme measures of setting two traps, one for the Kringles and the Warlock, who was without his magic at this point and couldn't see them coming, and one for Chris as he was attempting to enter a home through the chimney to deliver a gift, with Meisterburger confronting him face to face. They're all arrested, and Jessica pleads with Meisterburger to release them, but he's not hearing any of it. This makes her realize that her true place is to be with Chris, so along with the help of the newly flying reindeer, she manages to help everyone escape. They return to their headquarters in the mountains, finding it demolished by the Meisterburgers, so everyone sets out to find a new location, with Chris growing the first stage of his infamous beard. Although, at this point it's still short, red like his hair, and without the mustache for the moment. Before they set out to find a new location, however, Chris and Jessica marry, now christened as Mr. and Mrs. Claus. During this time, Chris's voice starts to change, and they eventually find a new piece of land located in the North Pole, where they build their new home and workshop. Now, although released nearly a decade after, this is where this special starts to cross over into the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer special from 1964, as the buildings constructed on this property are the very same ones from that film, down to the precise placement and architecture. This is due to the fact that all the Rankin Bass Christmas specials are tied into one another through a shared universe, with this retroactively being the first chapter to every film and special to follow. But that's another video for another day. As the years pass and everyone ages, Chris now wears his full beard, mustache included, which starts off as still red before the passage of more time brings it to the infamous fluffy white beard, as well as the more rounded physique we associate him with today. Eventually, the Meisterburgers fell out of power, and Chris, now going by the name of Santa Claus, is no longer considered an outlaw. But, unfortunately, with old age comes a need to slow down, as he could no longer sustain delivering toys year-round. So, the deliveries were limited to one time a year on December 25th. We close out the special with Kruger stating that although there may be some unhappiness in life overall, with kids growing into jaded adults and forgetting the joys of childhood innocence, Santa Claus and what he represents, kindness and goodwill toward man, will live on eternally through the good and the bad. The infamous title song plays, and that's the film's conclusion. The end. Overall, this is one of my favorite things to watch during Christmas, and it's one of the very best amongst the myriad of Rankin Bass Christmas specials that exist. Great writing, great acting, and a spectacular soundtrack. I highly recommend this to everyone, both young and old. Now, as I stated in the very beginning of this review, if anyone is interested in a track-by-track review of the film's soundtrack, you can find that on my other channel through the link below. Also, if you'd like to help support my work, you can donate funds to my PayPal through the link below. I do plan on starting a Patreon at some point, but not quite yet. I want to build up a large catalog of content first. So for now, if you'd like to assist with financial support, you can do that through my PayPal. Anything that anyone can afford in any capacity is greatly, greatly appreciated. I'd like to take this time to thank my editor. Your hard work is always appreciated, and to thank you all for your time as well. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope you all enjoyed this review, and for those who aren't aware, every week that I've done a Rankin Bass Christmas special on this channel, I've also done a tie-in review for each special's soundtrack on my other channel. Next week I had planned on doing both reviews on the 1974 special, The Year Without a Santa Claus, but I don't currently have access to the soundtrack for that, so both of those reviews will be put on the back burner for now, but I do plan on getting to them eventually. So instead, next week I will be ranking the top 5 out of all the best Rankin Bass Christmas specials. So, join me next week for that. Until then, everyone, enjoy the holiday season, be safe, and take care of yourselves and each other. Goodbye.